Well, welcome back, guys. We are on episode 15.
hmm
Wow, kind of crazy. Um, I hope that you enjoyed the last episode with Katie. I thought that was a really good conversation. I thought it was awesome to be able to talk to somebody who's getting ready to graduate from high school and
hmm
kind of navigating and trying to figure out her life and everything. But
Yeah.
today we are talking about job interviews, securing a job, what to look for, the process behind it, what our experiences have been, and
hmm
also advice for you all on maybe what to expect. Or also, this can just be an opportunity for you to listen to other people because I know that I'm curious about some of my coworkers' experiences with their job interviews, or just like my friends' job interviews experiences, because each company and organization is completely different from the next. So
hmm
I think it'll be a good topic.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because we've had this on like our topic ideas for a while, and I was like, Chris, we can't talk about this until I secure a job because like I need the credibility of being able to say that I've been through this entire process completely. So
I know.
here we are.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you missed it, Colleen got a job last week. We are excited. Um, but yeah, I think that it's nice to be able to have the full circle moment because usually in the past we've been talking about like my experiences with like getting a job and stuff, but we haven't done like a super deep dive, but then like also
hmm
hunting, job hunting, going through different things like that. So I think it'll be a good topic. But it's been a couple days since we recorded last. Colleen, what is your life updates? What you've been up to?
My biggest one is that my book release has been extended. My pre-launch campaign has been extended 30 days. So I did not reach my goal, which is very common. I'm not too pressed about it. But for anybody that didn't get to purchase my book and they wanted to, you now have an extra 30 days. So I will leave the link down in the bio. It's only $15 for the ebook and it's $39 for a soft cover copy. So I would really appreciate your guys' support because I still have about $2,500 left to raise before I can move even further into the publishing process. So I've started revisions this week. I have 3 chapters to revise by Sunday. So I'm really getting into the details of the book, which is really exciting. Um,
Oh,
other than that, I got my first big girl credit card today. It came in the mail. So my parents will no longer be paying my bills. So I was like, I'm picking what credit card I want. So
yeah, that's
that was
funny.
exciting. Other than that, I told my mom yesterday that I was thinking about buying like some real gold jewelry, just since I'm going to be working and stuff. And I just wanted stuff that like I could swim in, I could sweat in, I could shower in, and like not have to take it off. And knowing her, she does this like stuff all the time and it cracks me up. She was like, "Oh, hold on. You don't need to buy it. I'm going to hook you up right now." And she was like, "Come to my jewelry box." And I was like, "Okay." So she pulled out these 3 pieces and she used to wear these 2 in high school. And they're still like
Hmm.
in great condition. So we cleaned them up and everything. And then this little pendant down here was actually worn by my great grandmother. Her name is Aga,
Wow.
which I think is like just a very unique name. Um, but yeah, so now I have some nice little vintage pieces on my neck. So I was like,
Wow.
perfect, because I was gonna buy like real gold, stuff that was like a little bit pricey because I wanted it to be nice. And yeah, if you know my mother, this is very on brand for her to just hook me
Yeah.
up. So I was
Well, it's
very
also
excited.
nice. Yeah, it's also nice to have like, family
hmm
pendants and
Oh, I forgot about this
jewelry
one.
and stuff.
Yeah, and she gave me this like little tennis bracelet, and this is the first ever piece of jewelry that my dad bought for my mom.
Aw, that's
So
cute.
now I'm wearing that.
Aw,
So
full
yeah,
circle. So
I know. All
cute.
right,
But
Chris.
also, Colleen, with your book, for some of our newer viewers, what is your book based on? What do you talk about? What's the
Yes.
moment, or why'd you write it? Oh,
That's a very good question. I should have added that in. Thank you for bringing that up. So my
yeah.
book is a mental health book, which I think a lot of people hear that and they're like, why would I want to read that? But everyone deals with mental health in their own way, shape, and form. And when I was going through my mental health journey and figuring out my depression and just going through the struggles of college and everything, I read a lot of mental health books, and all of them either tried to change me or follow this like 3 to 5 step process and your mindset and your depression will be cured. And that's just
Mhm.
not how it is. Mental health is an ongoing, everyday battle our entire lives. So I'm writing a book that is meant to be your friend. So I have my experiences in there, and then I also have a bunch of interviews from my peers about just everyday battles. And the book is supposed to make you, like, sympathize with people, and it's not meant to change you. So it's supposed to be, your friend in time, like, the low points of your life, but then also help you succeed through our advice and the high points. So that's a little bit about the book.
Cool. Awesome. I've always been a big fan from the beginning.
Yeah,
I
I would
think
hope
it's gonna
so.
be great. Yeah, well, but I think it'll be great, and I'm excited to see how many other people are get interested in it. I think definitely Colleen will have like the links and stuff like on our social media, and then also on our YouTube pages and stuff. So check it out.
Yeah.
Definitely highly recommend. A lot of cool stories. Well, for me on updates, um, we went to the Shenandoah River over the weekend, last weekend.
Hmm.
That was a lot of fun. We went tubing. You can do tubing, kayaking, canoeing, everything. It was really nice because we were able to also rent, like they have their own like cooler like tube thing. So
Hmm.
like all you do is just strap the cooler in, and just like floats with you, and you just like wrap yourselves, like tie
That's
all yourselves
nice.
together, and you just
Yeah,
go. It's awesome. It was a lot of
that's cool.
fun. Yeah, it was about it's in Front Royal, Virginia. So it's about hour and 30, hour and 25 minutes outside of DC. It's not a bad drive at all. It's also very scenic, very like nice, like the mountains and
Hmm.
getting into Appalachia and stuff like that. So it's cool. But um the whole excursion took about like 4 hours. And I applied sunscreen 3 times and I was burnt to a crisp.
Yeah.
I'm currently peeling. I came back and I was like, oh God, like this
Yeah.
is gonna be
Well,
bad.
it was funny because you were Snapchatting me that night, and I swear by every Snapchat, your face was progressively getting redder.
Yeah, it was bad, real bad. And I like out like 2, 3 times a day. We had like different things like at meetings at work this week. And so like my nose started peeling and I was like, shit, like I don't want to be like flaking of the
Yeah.
nose and like the forehead when I'm in these big meetings. So I literally took moisturizer and aloe with me to work every day and would apply it like every hour on the hour because I was
That's
just
so
like, I
funny.
just don't want to like look disgusting. And
Yeah.
I walked in on Tuesday and everyone was like, Chris, oh my God, what did you do? Why are you like so red? And I was like, you know what? Mind your business. That's
Leave
what
me
I'm
alone.
doing. You mind your business, leave me alone, don't talk about it. So anyway, I would took aloe and moisturizer to work every single day because I don't want to be like flaking off on the table in front of me during a meeting. That's disgusting. But yeah, but I went to the dentist this morning and the receptionist complimented my tan. She was like, "Your tan is so beautiful." And I was like, "Thank you." I don't look tan in this like this video, but I am tan. It has changed to tan. And I was like, "Thank you." Like it's a burn. She's like, "Well, it doesn't look like one. Like it looks great." I was like, "Wow, well, thank you." So
Well, that's good.
yeah. So I guess that's probably basically the only big like update besides like I've had like so many meetings at work this week. It's been kind of hectic, but it's been good.
Yeah, we're recording on a Friday, which is unusual for us. So,
And it's my last summer Friday for work. I'm so sad. So I think I mentioned this a couple times, but where I work, we do these things called summer Fridays. And so between Memorial Day and Labor Day, you can sign up for like a different group A or B, and then you have every other Friday off.
mhm.
And they're so nice because it's so easy to like you use for like today. I used it to have a dentist appointment. It's good for like doctor's appointments or uh, if you need to go like shopping, or you just need a day to like have a relaxation day and like go to the pool or hang out. Honestly, I've spent Fridays like sleeping until like 11 and watching movies all day, and it's been lovely. So
Mhm.
they're nice like self-care days, but this is my last one until next year. So I will start my normal work hours back again on Monday.
Yeah, sad. But then like your hours
Sad,
kind of
but
go a little bit
also,
back to normal because you like work an extra
yeah,
hour a day, right? Like for summer Fridays.
yeah. So for summer Fridays, you work from 8:30 in the morning until 5:45 in the evening. And so now I'll be doing the normal 8:30 to 4:45. So
Yeah.
I am excited about that. So it's like a win, like it's like a good thing and a bad thing at the same time that
Yeah.
it's
At least you'll
going
get your
away.
evening
But
back a little bit.
I'll get my evenings back. Yeah, which will be nice because usually after like working until like 5:45, 6 o'clock, I'm like dead.
Hmm. Yeah.
So,
Well, let's jump into how you secured a job and you get summer Fridays.
oh yeah, something to look forward to. um,
Yeah, so Chris's and I's processes are extremely different. I think almost everyone's process is a little bit different, but they're also kind of the same a little bit too. So we wanted to talk about, you know, kind of compare and contrast our processes. So, of course, if you want to dive into how you got where you are.
yes. So my process was kind of different comparatively to a lot of people who are getting. Um, I started researching jobs since I graduated in December of 2020. I started researching jobs and doing job interviews and stuff in the summer before graduation.
Hmm.
So I interviewed at like two, three places. Um, but also with that, in the process of getting through there, and something that Colleen and I both did a lot is make sure that you have a LinkedIn account set up.
Hmm.
Make sure that you're staying up to date with that, looking for connections, anybody that you know. It's a good thing to. It's a good idea to send them a request, um, because that's going to open your whole networking process up to so many other people.
Hmm.
And so I had a LinkedIn account. I made a Indeed account.
Yep.
Um,
I had
I
a
think those are the
Handshake
only two
account
that.
as well, but I didn't really use Handshake
Yeah,
that much. I just had it because like the University of Kentucky is like I think they have like a collaboration with Handshake. So like you automatically
that's
get
how
an
Ohio
account.
State is.
Yeah, I think a lot of
Yeah,
colleges are like that, but I don't know, I didn't like Handshake as much. I think they're trying to make like Handshake like how Indeed is.
yeah, yeah. Because we had handshakes. I never used it, and then Ohio State does their own like specific kind of thing where they're like introduce students to alumni
Hmm.
and to kind of grow the network and stuff. I personally never went to any job fairs or
Yeah,
anything
neither
like
did
that when
I.
I was in college. I did
Yeah.
not do that. Because I knew I had an idea of what I wanted to do, and I knew that none of those companies or organizations were going to be there because I would look at the lists, and so my route was a little different. But so applied for a couple places. I went through a humongous entire interview process at this like PR firm in Cleveland. Out of like, I think they said that there were like 11, 1,200 applicants or something crazy, and they offered it to me. They were only offering like 10 to 15. They offered it to me, but then I told them they wanted me to start and like do it while I was finishing out my last semester. And I was like, there's no way that I'm going to be able to go up there like 4 days a week and drive to Cleveland from Columbus. So I was like, gonna have to pass.
Hmm.
And then there was another process. Didn't even interview for the job. They just kind of like were just trying to get me to go straight into it. And it was like an insurance. And I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I didn't apply to this and I did not like sign any paperwork. So gotta go. Also, I'm not doing insurance. And so then I applied to three places. I actually applied to like three places. And one of those was where I work currently.
Yeah. Well,
And
and
then,
I wanna put in a disclaimer really quickly. Um, we are kind of wording things a certain way because we have decided that we want to keep our work life and our personal life separate. And in order to keep doing this podcast, we thought it was important to keep some things about our lives a little bit of a mystery. So we will not be saying like the companies that we work at or you know, any affiliations or anything like that. So we're just kind of generally speaking and talking about, you know, we do have jobs and stuff, we promise, but
right.
we think it's important that, you know, we keep that a little bit on the down low. So if you're, you know, wondering,
I'm sure the viewers could find where we work if they really looked us up on social media. But
yes, there you go.
Talk about here. But yes, so one of those places was where I work currently. I also applied to a PR firm in Los Angeles, and I applied to a PR firm in New York City. And so within like 2 weeks, I heard back from where I work currently, and they set up an initial screening interview. And so I did that, felt super great about it. Something that I do every single time that I interview is send a follow-up thank you email. So every single interview that I've ever had, I shoot a quick email, a professional one, but also a personal one of just saying thank you for like having me. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out, kind of thing. And so had the initial screening interview, got moved to the second round. This was out of those three, this was the only one that I had heard back from, but this was all happening in like September of 2020. And so then moved to the second round, had 4 interviews back to back, and then got up to the final round, and they told me that if you hear back from the final round and you talk to a specific person, then like expect that you got the job. So heard back and then was like, wow, I got this job. And then I hadn't heard anything from like the one in LA or the one in New York, but I told myself I was in a very like particular place where I was trying to figure out if I wanted, so my major was in agricultural communication. And so I was trying to figure out, do I want to stay in the ag industry and in the ag world, or do I want to get out of it and then explore, do some job things, to work a couple years outside of it, and then decide if I want to go back or not. But I told myself that this was the one place that is in the ag world that I would not say no to if I was offered a job. So I was offered the job, took it, and then I started on October 16th of 2020. And then I worked part-time, quote unquote. I worked 30 hours a week instead of 40 until December 1st. And then moved to full-time, and then graduated in December, and then but moved here in November. So, and then a week after, it was actually funny, a week after I got the offer, the place in New York called me and asked me if I wanted the job, and I was like, unfortunately I already have one. So but that was kind of my process. A weird process, but for me, I knew without knowing that I got the job, because it was one of those situations where, like, I've said this a couple times about like a couple different things, like when you're visiting a college, you just know, when you're doing a job interview, you just know, like I just knew that I would be genuinely surprised if I did not get offered the job. And so, and knowing a couple of people who work there and who had worked there, I knew what to expect and different things like that. One thing is connections will get you a long way. If you have someone that's like in the industry that you want to go into, or you know someone who used to or currently works at the place that you want to be, it's a good idea to be able to like contact them and to get in touch with them and talk to them about having coffee or going to lunch or something like that. I didn't name drop. I name dropped like a couple people like that who used to work there, but for example, Rachel, who works there and has worked there for 2 years, over 2 years, 2.5 years. I did not tell anyone that I knew her. I did not tell anyone that I was friends with her. I did not tell anyone anything about that until after I had already gotten the job and showed up on my first day.
Yeah.
And they were like trying to introduce me to Rachel. And I was like, no, actually, I stayed at her like apartment last night to like come into work today. Like we've
Yeah.
been friends for like 10 years. So yeah, that was a little bit about my process though.
Mine was a little different. COVID kind of put a wrench in my plans. So I started my internship in January with hopes of graduating in May. I was on track to graduate in May, but because of COVID, it made my internship be fully remote, which caused me to not graduate until like a week ago. So I technically finished my internship like on August 11th. So I technically like I walked in May, but I graduated this month, which is like my mind. Like I'm not gonna believe that until I like physically see my diploma because I've been done with classes for like 3 months now. So it just feels weird. But because of that, I wasn't like aware that I was going to not be graduating until the beginning of May. So I had my first job interview like back in March. So I like filled out like the head of the journalism department at my school sent me this company and they pretty much take your resume and your reel and they disperse it to companies like all across the US. So I started out doing that and it was really cool because then, you know, my stuff would end up on their desk. If they liked me, they would shoot me an email or a phone call, we'd set up an interview. So it was nice because I started out not really applying to places that like I really wanted yet. So I kind of used those interviews as almost like trial and error or like mock interviews. Since it was places that like, you know, I was obviously going into it with an open mindset, but I was also going into it of like, if it's not a great offer, then like, I'm not going to take this because this isn't where I want to be. So I kind of use those to like, you know, bounce around different questions and stuff like that and just kind of see like, you know, the groove of like just doing the interview process because with COVID, I hadn't done an interview in like over a year. So I just felt a little rusty. But then when I found out that I wasn't graduating until August, I took April and May, I stopped applying for jobs and I stopped having interviews because I was like, what's the point if I still have 3 months of this internship left to do? So then when June and beginning of July came was when I started applying heavy. I sat down one night before, actually, I think before I came to DC to see you in May, and I applied to like 57 different positions. So I like, you know, if you're going to be doing that, I definitely recommend creating an Excel spreadsheet, putting what the position is, what the company is, what the salary is, if you know it, if you've applied, if you've heard back, if you've been rejected, if you got an interview, just to keep everything in order. And then, so I started out at like a US scale, and then I decided, no, I want to narrow it down to just Ohio and Kentucky. And then I eventually was like, no, I don't want to leave Lexington. And I narrowed it down to just Kentucky. So that process was definitely weird because then, you know, the places that I applied to in like California and Oregon and places out there, you know, I had to start declining their interviews because I decided that I didn't want to go out there anymore. So I did turn down, I think, a total of 6 positions, 6 offers, which is kind of crazy for me to think about. But some of them really lowballed me, and the salary was not it, and like not even comfortably livable. And then other ones, it was just when I decided that I didn't wanted to go to Kentucky. Like I turned down an offer in Dayton, which was kind of hard to do because it's so close to home. But I also spent, you know, 7 hours with a company one day, and then, you know, hadn't heard back from them for a while. So before I secured my position, like what, 2 weeks ago, I kind of hit a dead spot where I hadn't heard from anybody. I was sending follow-up emails. I was having to do writing tests and certain skills tests for some of them. And I just kind of like, it was just like, I was getting really discouraged. I was hitting a point where like, and my parents could tell that I was hitting a point where I was like, I have done so many Zoom interviews. Like one of these needs to hit that I want to be at. And then I started like second guessing, maybe I shouldn't have turned down the Dayton offer because it was a good offer. and I could live at home with my parents, save a lot of money. And then I was like, no, that's not what I want. Like, I'm not ready to leave my life yet in Lexington. Like, one of them is gonna hit. So then I just started applying to everything down there that I could possibly find. And I ended up absolutely falling in love with the place, absolutely falling in love like with the personalities of the people there. And I was really hopeful that I was going to get an offer from them. And about a week went by and I did. So I definitely am one of those people that like, yeah, I was so discouraged, but sometimes you just have to like have faith that it's going to work out the way that it's supposed to. I like to believe that the universe is up there pulling strings and making things happen for me. So I'm glad that everything worked out in the end. But I definitely used Indeed a lot. Indeed is great because you can have all of your information, like I would be sitting in like a doctor's office or like getting my nails done or something, and it takes like 4 clicks to apply to places. So like I was probably applying to like 2 to 5 positions like every day because it was that easy. So definitely prioritize Indeed. I think a lot of companies are moving towards Indeed. We did want to talk about like definitely I think we talked about like how to start. I would definitely say like, figure out like what you want your salary to roughly be, and like definitely be very realistic about that. There's so much information out there like you can find, like if a job isn't telling you what their salary is, you can pretty much find like how much you should be balling for that's realistic. And I had a lot of places tell me that they like appreciated the fact that I was realistic, because a lot of people out of college really highball it, and like that's just not, it's not going to happen unless you're really good and you have a really good resume to back up why you deserve that amount of money.
Well, and one thing with the salary too is you see a lot of people that are like younger, they're like, I want to move to LA, I want to move to New York, I want to move to Florida, I want to move to Texas, I want to move to Chicago, Boston, DC, whatever. And one thing to think about with that is with the salary is don't highball yourself, don't lowball yourself, happy medium, but also look up what the estimated cost of living is in the area, because that's huge on like how much money you're going to be making, because you're going to be like, oh my gosh, like I'm making like 65,000 a year. And it's like, yeah, that's awesome. How much are you paying in taxes? How much is it going to cost you to pay your phone, your like gas, electric, water bills, trash bill? How much is your rent going to be? How much should you be paying in rent? Something that I learned was, what did they say? Take your salary, divide it in half, and then divide that by the number of like months in a year or something. And then it like should show you like how much money you should be spending in rent a month.
Well, and what's beautiful too is
comfortable.
Yeah, and what's beautiful too is there's so many calculators like out there on the internet that literally you can type in what your like net gross income is going to be, what state you live in, so then it roughly, estimates the taxes for you, and then you can put in like, your rent, like car payment, phone payment, anything like that, and it'll calculate it like for you, and it takes like 5 minutes. So if you're definitely like stressed or worried about that, you usually can roughly figure it out pretty quickly, which is nice. I think the thing that people are most nervous about is like the actual interview process itself, especially since like, it's not for like a high school job or something like that. I think your internship, like that's definitely a really good like learning experience, because it's probably going to be the thing that you have that's most like what it's going to be like applying for jobs. I think Chris and I prepared a little bit differently when it came to interviews. I asked a lot of my professors what they thought and, what questions I should be asking. And I really listened to their advice since they have been, in my field before and they're knowledgeable in my field. Another thing that really helped for me was social media. On Facebook, there's pretty much a group for like any major ever. So I joined a lot of groups, and like you literally can ask whatever you want, and you have all of these people that are already in your field that are experienced, that are going to, give you a list of questions that you can ask. And like I didn't even have to ask questions in it. I would just scroll through and find that other people were in similar situations as me already asking them, and then just go to the comments. I also use Pinterest a lot as well for like general questions. And then I also just use my peers too. My sister was going through the job hunting process the same time that I was, and like she's 14 years older than me. She's had quite a few jobs. So I asked her like what her staple go-to questions were. So definitely ask around. And I made like a list just in my notes on my phone. And then when I would have an interview, whether it was via Zoom or like on my phone, I would just throw my phone on speaker, go to that list and, have those core questions ready to ask.
Yeah. What I did was I would research on the company or organization or whatever it may be, and scroll through their website, look on their social media, like if I didn't know about them, and then look up their mission of the company or organization and their core values. And from there, that's when I would start thinking of questions that I wanted to ask. I have a list, somewhere of like what questions I asked during my interviews for this position. And I still have them. And I like interviews, like it's obviously like it's okay to be nervous about interviews, but also at the same time, they're interviewing you as much as you're interviewing them.
Yeah.
Because it's similar to what Colleen's experienced.
Yeah, especially
like
depending.
Similar to what you've experienced, you can say no. Like if you don't like it, you don't jive with the people, you can say no. Like it's not up to them. It's also up to you.
Yeah. Well, and especially like for me personally, I mean, as a journalist, my job is going to be to interview other people. So they were especially interviewing me, and I was also interviewing them back because I had to prove that, I'm able to do that.
Right. And so I come up with a list of questions that I usually come up with a list about like 10 questions. And then I look up the person or persons who I am having my interview with on that specific time. Especially once you get into like the second round, third round kind of stuff, you're going to have more interviews with more people. And so look them up, figure out what their position is, what they do, and then I highlight, star, asterisk, whatever, certain ones that I want to use in certain places. And then honestly, a little trick of mine, what I do is I write them down, because also like I want to get that instilled in my brain and something to be able to like physically look at. And then I tape it on my wall, window, or curtain that is behind my computer. And so while I'm looking at you, I also can glance up and look really quickly and be reminded of the question.
Yeah. Well, it's really
or just
great
honestly
too.
any piece. Yeah. Or honestly, any piece of like research that I had done on the company or whatever that like is important to me to be able to be like, I'm gonna say this specific thing that is in their mission to say that like that aligns with me and my core values and morally what I want to do with my life.
Yeah. Well, and it's really great too, like, if the conversation goes a little bit stale or if there's like an awkward pause, then it's great to just be able to look up or take a glance and be like, oh, like, that jogged my memory. Like, I have another question for you. And then you can just like keep flowing seamlessly and it's not, uncomfortable.
Right. So that's what I do. And one thing especially I think that is important when it comes to interviews, it's best to overdress than underdress.
Yes. Yeah.
I like virtually, I would always like, I mean, no matter what interview I'm in, I'm going to wear a blazer, tie, button-up shirt, at the whole nine, and look professionally, like virtually from waist up.
Yeah.
I wore moccasins and shorts, but and then like in person, it's just like make sure that you should be business professional,
like
no matter what the job is.
I always wear a blouse and a suit jacket and dress pants.
Yeah. So that's something to also keep in mind. Obviously, it depends on the environment, because like, I mean, if you're doing like a part-time job or like something like that, and it's at like a local grocery store or something, then like you can get away with like dress pants, polo, button-up shirt.
My motto has always been, I would rather show up a little bit overdressed than underdressed.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. Well, and like going back to what you said about like researching the company and people and stuff, people like the employers absolutely drool if you ask something very specific about their position or the company that you're trying to get the position at. Like if you can show through questions that you did your research, it just proves even further of like,
Hmm.
I want to be here. I took time out of my day to research and come up with questions. So it just, they drool over that stuff.
Yeah. And it's not weird. It's not awkward to ask those
No.
questions. It's not weird. Um, they want that. Yeah. Similar to what Colleen, what you said, they drool over it. They want you to be, it just shows that you're taking the initiative to look into it more than just showing up and not knowing what's going on.
Well, and a great question
Especially
that,
like, I mean, I've seen people like show up to an interview with someone or a company that, and they like mispronounce the company name and stuff like that. So like, that's just automatically like,
yeah,
all right, see you, goodbye.
yeah, stupid
So
small mistakes like that can definitely make or break you for sure.
yeah.
I've always found one of my staple questions has always been like, if I'm interested in the company, is what, you know, obviously I just graduated from college, but I don't want my learning to stop here. So like, what training and learning do you have for me to be able to continue to grow my skills? And they love that question too,
Mhm.
because that shows that you're an open-minded person and that you're willing to learn, which is obviously two big things that employers are looking for. And then I also like wasn't afraid to ask about the whole mental health standpoint either. Especially for the position that I'm in. Being a journalist can be really hectic and it can be really demanding, and you can get burned out really quickly. So that was on my list of questions of like, what are you going to do as a company to make sure that, you know, I'm able to function and be successful at this job, especially when it becomes demanding. And I think with it being 2021, like, do not be afraid to prioritize your mental health and ask those questions because it's really important.
Yeah, exactly. A couple like things that I ask, like I always like say like, this is a cliche interview question, but I'm genuinely interested to know, like, why do you work here? Why are you invested in this company or this organization? What's the most
Yep.
important to you? What do you like about your job? Where do you see this place being in 5 to 10 years? What do you want to accomplish?
Mm-hmm.
And then also, like I ask about growth opportunities. I'm a person that like, if I'm going to a company, I don't want to work there for 1 or 2 years and then leave. I want to be there for the long haul and see things through. Now, if something comes up in a couple of like years and I'm like, it's time to go, then it's time to go. That's completely fine. One other thing that I always do, or well, something to also like note is everyone hates the question, so tell me about yourself. But like genuinely, you can open that up to so many things when you're asked that.
Yeah.
Like have an elevator pitch, but don't sound robotic about it
Mm-hmm.
and memorize it. So like if you're a person that's coming straight out of college and you know that you're going to be having like 5 or more interviews, have something specific written down in your
Mm-hmm.
phone on a piece of paper, tape it up, and like just have that, memorize it. Don't sound robotic, but just make
Mm-hmm.
sure you find out the things that you want to be included so that it's just there and it's
Yeah.
memorized and it can come off whenever it needs to come off.
Yeah.
And
I went to TikTok and I literally typed in interview questions,
oh yeah,
and there's so many
I've done
TikToks
that.
from employers that like literally tell you how to answer the tell me a little bit about yourself question. And I picked one that, you know, obviously I told a little bit about myself and I told a little bit about my personal life and my hobbies too, because they want to see that you're an actual human being. But then I connected that into, you know, I really enjoyed this, this, and this. You can see those on my resume. So then, you know, I geared it into, you can make it flow into, all right, let's talk about my resume now.
Mm-hmm. And that's another thing too, is like I've gotten to the point in my life where I have more jobs and internships than what can fit on my resume, because let's talk about resumes for a minute. They need to be 1 page and 1 page only.
Literally, Chris is the resume builder god. I'm not even kidding. I have flat out told him that if he like needs a career change, he could totally like start a resume builder company for sure. Like all of our friends have sent, like I have Chris's resume in my email because I literally took his resume and like just copied it and just did my information. So I just want everyone to know that he is credible in the resume era.
Yeah, well, so that opens it up. If any of you have questions or you would like me to read over your resumes, I can do that. Obviously, not going to promise that I'm going to get to it, but I will try because
Yeah.
that's a lot. But yes, I have been paid to do people's resumes, and
Yeah.
I like have also created so many people's resumes and business cards and stuff like that. But anyway, so that's a good point that you bring up, though, is referring to things in your resume. But with that, I've gotten to a point where like I have too many things that like some stuff will not fit in it.
Me too.
So I talk about other
go through
stuff
and dissect.
to be able to bring those components into it. But also, one thing is once you get more experiences with your resume, don't just put in your like the last 3 like experiences that you've had. If you had one that was like within 10 years or something and it fits to what you are applying for, stick it in there and substitute it out for another one, and then just bring that up. And if they say something about like, what about this gap? Well, I was actually working at this such company doing this such work, but I didn't put that in there because it was less relevant than what the experiences that I put on my resume for you today.
Yeah. Well, and that's like, almost a wow factor too of like, oh my God, this isn't all they've done. They have stuff on their resume that they've, stuff that's not on their resume that they've done too. So that just shows that you're a go-getter, that like you had to weed out stuff to put on your resume.
Exactly. And also like make sure that you're putting your skills. Honestly, if you're a recent graduate from college, put the clubs and organizations that you were involved in.
Yeah.
Well, those.
This is something that's huge too. And I think this was like kind of something that was scary to me when I was a freshman and sophomore in college. When you are applying for jobs after college, anything that you did in high school, pretty much almost everything you did in high school should not be on that resume. And that was scary to me because I was like, oh my God, I have to like, do things in college to completely fill up this resume. But it was a lot easier than what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, once you get in college, you just start going into a whole bunch of stuff, and it's just like it's
especially your junior and senior year for sure.
Right. Well, and I mean, depending upon the company or organization, like I mean, if there's like something relevant to you, this is a big thing in like agriculture. If you were in like FFA and 4-H and stuff, like you can talk about that in your interview and be like, I got my start in agriculture because of these organizations, and I did this such thing.
Well, like for example, I think you as well. I have my American degree on my current resume.
I have mine as well.
Yeah, because one, that was something we did at the beginning of college, technically, and two, for the people that know what that is, it's a really big deal. Like I think Chris, you probably know the numbers better than I do. Only like 5% of like FFA
1%.
1%. Even better.
FFA members across the country end up getting their American FFA degree.
Yeah. So then, like, if they, Google that and see, all the things all the requirements it takes to get that degree, I mean, that says a lot.
Yeah.
I think the next thing and our final thing is like securing the position. What are things that like make a good fit like for you is really important. For me, it was obviously location became a big factor for me, and also for Chris. He wanted to be out in DC. But also just like I definitely asking, the environment and stuff too, which is hard, especially like a lot of my interviews were via Zoom. So it's really hard to like explain what an atmosphere is like without you being in it. And that was something that was really stressful for me because everyone told me that I would get the gut feeling when I was at the company that like, this is where I'm supposed to be. And like, you can't get that gut feeling via Zoom. Like it's hard. No. It's really hard. So hopefully like, the people that are listening, I really hope that you guys are doing your like interviews in person, because I got so sick of Zoom interviews, and it's so much harder to push your personality, through a screen. So something that was huge for me was the people, and then the learning, what I was going to learn. And then also, starting out this being my first job out of college, how is this going to get me to where I want to be in 10 years? How is this company, these people in this position going to get me from point A to point B? So those were 3 things that I really looked forward to or looked into for a company. And then also I got lucky because my company is changing companies. They changed ownership. So I am going to be involved of like helping rebrand the face of this company, which is something that I am really excited about. So also just look for like, different things like that. Like that's going to look great on my resume. So like look for those little things that you can pull as well.
Yeah, I agree. my big things when I was going into it was location, because like I said, I applied to LA, New York, DC, because I was like, I'm getting out of Ohio. I'm gonna go explore things. I'm not tied down. I didn't really care about like which location it was, except like I mean, in my heart, I wanted to be in DC, like above anything else. But and then also mine was also the people, because number one, I started virtually, and how was I going to make friends in a new city that I barely knew that many people in? I needed to be able to have like people who were similar to my age that were open to having friendships with work coworkers and stuff. And luckily I got lucky and I have some great coworker friends. And also I wanted to make sure that I was having an impact on people, and I wanted to be able to help grow myself and grow people along with me, whether that was like members of something or people that I surround myself with, or just people who like utilize our resources at my job. And I truly believe that I am making an impact with people and giving them a good experience and giving them tools to be able to grow as a person professionally and personally. And I also wanted to just make sure that being in DC, people are heard, and that they, especially farmers and ranchers across the country, having concerns about different policies that we're seeing in DC and being able to connect them to the right people to be able to express those concerns. Especially within like the changing of like different administrations and different folks that are governing our country. I think that farmers are left out in that conversation a lot. And so I think it's important to be able to do that. And overall, I just wanted to be able to like have also just like talking to the people like that I was interviewing. I wanted to make sure that I enjoyed their company enough to be able to be like, I genuinely want to go see this person tomorrow. Like if you're going to be seeing them
Monday through Friday,
5 days a week, like I'm gonna want to care about them, and I'm gonna want to be like, oh my gosh, like maybe I don't want to go into work today, but I get to see these people, and then that's gonna make my experience better and the day go better. And I genuinely just am like curious about their lives and like wanting to be in touch with them. So that's my thoughts. And that's what I look for.
I think we did like a very good, this is a very basic, overview. There's so many details. We could talk about this forever. So I want to make it known that like our DMs are always open. We might not have the answer, but we know somebody that will. So don't be afraid to ask questions, especially if you're, going into your first job interview, whether it's for an internship or for, a big boy, big girl job, whatever it is. We also have decided that we want to start making these podcasts a little bit more personal for you guys. So we're going to try our best. If we're going to do a topic like this, where we're trying to answer your questions based off of our experiences, we're going to throw a question up on our story on the Candid Chats with CNC Instagram. So then you can ask whatever questions you want to, and we will do our best to answer those within the episode. So about 24 hours before we record, look out, make sure you check our story on our Instagram. And so then we can hopefully answer some of the questions that you guys have, and not just questions we think you might have.
Yep. DMs and email is always open.
Correct.
So
I think that's all we have for this week, though, unless there's anything you want to add, Chris.
I don't think so, but I guess to reiterate, whenever you're going through this process of trying to figure out how to securing a job, going through the interview process, stuff like that, make sure that you surround yourself with friends who are going to be supportive of you, and also just like honestly assign someone to be like, hey, by the way, I'm assigning you to be my support role. You're going to be the person that I call before and after all of these interviews. I just need you to listen to me and give me some like good hints of advice and stuff like that. That's always good, because I felt like I had a team of people while I was doing these interviews to be able to decompress with, and just be like, and thoroughly talk through the interview with, and for them, and then ask them questions like, how do you think this sounded? Like, do you think this sounded good? Like, should I not have said this? Like, how should I capitalize on that next time?
Yeah.
So
especially when especially when like you're like if the interview was kind of iffy, it's really great
Yeah.
to call those people afterwards because they're going to give you the confidence boost that you need that it went well. And it's
Yeah.
also great when you're super excited about an interview or about a company that reached out to you. Being able to call that person and then celebrate with you is a great feeling. So yeah, your support system is really great during this process.
Yeah. And one thing that we didn't really touch on, but we could probably touch on it some other time. When it comes to references, using references in an interview, make sure to ask those people if you can use them as a reference.
Yes.
Send them a quick text if you're like have a personal enough relationship with them. Send them an email, call them on the phone, whatever. And make sure to be very specific about their name, where they work, what their position is, their email, and their phone number.
Yep.
And just ask them before you do it. It's very important to ask them before you do it because it is very, very, very inappropriate for you to use it before asking.
Yeah.
So it's just a courtesy thing. Nobody's going to say no, but just to be courteous, because it's not only depending upon where you're applying to, they might know people there. And so it's not always just your reputation on the line, it's theirs as well.
Yeah, that is true. Well, and like you want them to know that like they might be having a phone call or an email coming to them in the future. Like I asked my references back in March. So
yeah. So, but that's all I have. Best of luck to everyone as they go through it, especially some people that have taken the summer to relax and start looking more at jobs.
Well, and I think my last thing is just be prepared to feel all of the emotions because I was excited.
It's a roller coaster.
I was nervous. I was scared. I was ready. And then I got discouraged and you're going to be stressed out at some points. But just the excitement of securing the position and starting your life and your career is worth the roller coaster of it all. Hopefully. I guess I can't really say that yet. I haven't fully gotten to that point yet, but I'm hoping.
It is. It is. And it will be. Cool. Wow. This has been a good conversation. I've enjoyed it. Kind of reflecting.
Yes. Our like month of guest is, we took a pause. We've had guests for like the last like 4 or 5 episodes. But don't worry, we'll have one again next week.
Wow. I'll have one again next week. Yeah. And also, like, that's another thing. Let us know also, do you enjoy having like us having guests on? Do you prefer if we're like by ourselves? That'll kind of help us be able to navigate our agenda and our schedule of like what we're thinking and who we're inviting.
Do you want to be a guest? Do you think you have something to contribute to our platform?
Yeah.
We're trying to branch out a little bit with our guests. I mean, we had Katie on last week who neither of us have met before. So yeah, if you think you have something, if there's a topic you want to talk about or something that you're knowledgeable in, or you just want to say you've been on a podcast, our DMs and our email is open.
Yeah. So, and also one last thing, tomorrow is my college roommate Stanley's birthday. Happy birthday, Stanley.
Yes.
By the time that this is out, it had already been his birthday. But happy 24th, Stanley. You're old.
Yes. Yeah, go show him some love on the gram. We put his Instagram for all of the people that we have as guests. So go track him down and wish him a happy birthday.
Yeah. So, well, this has been a fun conversation and we will talk to you and see you all next week.
Yes. Peace and blessings.
Peace and blessings.